My name is Nomi and at 27 years old, after an 18-hour hospital shift, I came home and my key didn't work. My stepmother said, "Pay us $36,000 and we'll let you in. Your sister needs a vacation." I just nodded and said, "Understood." Then I walked away. The next morning, she found a letter at the door and started screaming so loud the neighbors came outside. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. There's a certain kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep. It sits in your bones, behind your eyes, in that hollow part of your chest where joy is supposed to live. That's the kind of tired I was when I got home. I'd been on shift for 18 hours straight, not just filling charts or monitoring vitals. I'd crack a rib doing chest compressions on a teenager whose parents were still in the waiting room. I pronounced 3 people dead. I'd brought to back. I had dried blood on my sleeves and the stench of antiseptic buried in my skin. What I wanted, no, needed, was a shower, a quiet meal, and maybe 4 hours of sleep before I had to be back at the hospital in the morning. That was it. That was my whole wish list. So, when I pulled into the driveway and my key didn't fit, my brain couldn't even process it at first. I turned it again, jiggled it, stared at it like it might apologize. Then the door opened. My stepmother stood there in yoga pants and a wine-stained tank top, holding her phone in one hand and an attitude in the other. "Oh," she said, like she'd forgotten I existed. "You're back early." Behind her, my stepsister lounged on the couch in my hoodie, scrolling TikTok like she owned the place. Her boyfriend, who hadn't worked a single day since moving in, was halfway through a bag of chips I bought. "The key doesn't work," I said. "Right," she replied. "We changed the locks. Rent's gone up. You want to stay here? It's $36,000 back rent plus utilities. Your sister needs a vacation. And frankly, you're a doctor. You can afford it." She said it like she was doing me a favor. I stood there holding my duffel bag, shoes sticking to the welcome mat. I didn't say anything for a moment, just looked at her. Really looked. The woman my father married while I was still learning how to braid my own hair. The one who told me to call her Lisa because stepmom sounded too formal, but who never once treated me like family. "Did Dad approve this?" I asked. She smirked. "Your father's overseas. This is my house when he's gone. I make the rules." I looked past her into the living room. My old textbooks were stacked on the floor, still in the same spot I left them. My name was still on some of the utility bills. I'd paid them last month. "Understood," I said. I nodded once, turned, and walked back to my car. I didn't slam the door, didn't yell, just drove off into the night, the ache in my chest sharper than any shift I'd pulled. I slept in the call room at the hospital on a plastic mattress wrapped in a scratchy blanket that smelled like disinfectant. And while I slept fitfully, shallowly, they celebrated, probably toasted with boxed wine to their genius idea of extorting me. Maybe my stepsister posted about it online, a TikTok with some petty caption about how freeloaders don't get free rides forever. What they didn't know was that I'd been waiting for this moment for years. The next morning, while they were still asleep, probably nursing hangovers and delusions, I drove back, knocked once, then laid the envelope right in the center of the doormat where she'd be sure to see it. Then I parked down the street and waited. 15 minutes later, right on schedule because she always checked the front step around 9:02 a.m. like clockwork, the front door creaked open. Lisa emerged in fuzzy slippers holding a mug that said "No One Mom" in peeling glitter. She bent down, picked up the envelope, opened it, and screamed. Not a sharp gasp, not a cry of surprise, a full-throated, soul-shaking, "Someone has died" scream. Lights flicked on in the house across the street. A dog started barking. Curtains moved. The neighbors came outside. From the safety of my car, I watched her face contort. Rage, panic, confusion, like someone had just told her the world was ending. She called for her daughter. My stepsister stumbled out, squinting in the sunlight, took one look at the paper, and started shouting. I didn't move, didn't smile, didn't flinch. I just waited because this was only the beginning. I used to think of that house as safe. When I was a kid, it was the place I ran to after soccer practice, after school, after heartbreaks and scraped knees. The fridge always had orange Gatorade. My dad always smelled faintly of soap and hospital-grade sanitizer. He'd come home late, but still managed to sit beside me while I did homework, nodding off with a medical journal in his lap. My mom kept the house warm, literally and figuratively. She liked throw blankets, cinnamon candles, and hugging too long. Then she died. I was 12 when the car accident happened. 1 minute she was picking up party favors for my birthday. The next she was gone. My dad didn't cry at the funeral. He held it together for me, but I remember how tightly he gripped my shoulder in the pew. Like, if he let go, we'd both collapse. For a while, it was just us, two people floating in the same lifeboat, doing our best not to rock it. Then came Lisa. I was 15 when they got married. She had a daughter, Kayla, who was my age, but we couldn't have been more different. Kayla was the kind of girl who called adults by their first names and thought it made her mature. She blasted music in the kitchen, rolled her eyes constantly, and had a new phone every 6 months. I was the quiet one, the studious one, the weird one, according to her. Dad got deployed the same year. Some long-term contract overseas through a military medical program. Said it was temporary. Said he'd be back before I knew it. Said Lisa would hold down the fort. Lisa didn't hold down anything. She just took over. Overnight, everything changed. The throw blankets disappeared. The cinnamon candles were replaced by sterile lavender plugins. The framed photo of my mom vanished from the hallway. No one talked about it. I remember asking once if I could keep it in my room. Lisa looked at me like I'd asked to hang roadkill on the wall. Don't you think it's time we all moved on? What she meant was, don't you think it's time I erased your mother completely? I kept my head down, focused on school, got into college early, crammed. I did everything I could to stay out of the house. Internships, summer jobs, anything. I only came back for holidays or when I was between leases. And even then, I paid my share, more than my share, actually. I covered groceries, split utilities, fixed the leaking sink in the downstairs bathroom when Lisa said she didn't want to deal with plumbers. She never thanked me. Kayla brought her boyfriend into the house when we were 19. He was older, tattooed, and implied, and according to Lisa, misunderstood. He practically moved in, ate our food, streamed video games at full volume, never paid a cent. He's family, Lisa said. Funny how I was never referred to that way. By the time I graduated med school, I was done hoping they'd ever treat me fairly. But I still paid bills, still helped out. I didn't want drama. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted peace. And I thought maybe if I was generous enough, quiet enough, they'd leave me alone. They didn't. The moment I started earning a real salary, it was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, every dinner conversation became about money. Lisa would drop passive-aggressive comments about how expensive it is to raise girls and how I'd lived here for free for so long. Then it got less passive, more aggressive. She started asking if I'd consider contributing a little more, even though I was already paying more than anyone else. She mentioned how Kayla had never gotten a proper vacation and deserved a break. Then one night, while I was microwaving leftovers I bought myself, she flat out asked me to back pay rent for all the years I'd lived under her roof. Kayla chimed in from the couch. It's only fair. You're a doctor now. I didn't respond, just stood there staring at the lasagna slowly rotating in the microwave, thinking about how surreal it was to be financially mugged in your own kitchen. A few days later, the locks were changed, and that's when I gave them the letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was just business. A clean, formal eviction notice stapled to a copy of the property deed with my name on it. What they didn't know, what they never asked, was that the house had been legally transferred to me when I turned 21. My dad bought it before he married Lisa. It was his outright, and he gifted it to me in a trust, quietly, without a word to her. Just in case, he'd said, I want you to be protected no matter what. I never bragged about it, never used it as leverage. I kept paying bills, kept playing nice, thinking maybe one day they'd treat me like family. Instead, they changed the locks and demanded $36,000. So, I gave them 30 days to leave. They didn't take it well. The moment Lisa saw the letter, her scream echoed down the entire street. Kayla came running, snatched the papers out of her hand, and shouted something I couldn't hear from the car. But judging by the look on her face, it wasn't, thank you. They didn't believe it. We're going to call a lawyer, I heard her say later in a voicemail. This is fake. You had this forged. You think you're clever, but you're not. Then came the texts. How could you do this to us? This is betrayal. After everything we gave you, your father will hear about this. I didn't reply because the house was never theirs. They just never thought the day would come when I'd stop pretending. In the meantime, I crashed with a friend from med school, Jordan, the kind of guy who always has protein powder in the blender and never asks too many questions. I told him the basics, family trouble, temporary situation. He offered me the spare room, handed me a blanket, and said, Cole, just don't steal my socks. The calls didn't stop. Lisa, Kayla, even the boyfriend, all of them taking turns on the guilt carousel. You're really going to kick out your own family. We took care of you when no one else did after everything we gave you. Which was funny because I racked my brain and couldn't remember a single time Lisa ever gave me something that didn't come with strings attached, side-eye, or a backhanded comment. Unless you count anxiety that she gave freely. I ignored the calls. I let the texts pile up. I figured they'd rage for a few days and then go silent. Wrong. Lisa switched tactics. She went online. A vague Facebook post appeared 2 days later. It's a sad day when someone you raise turns their back on you. Some people forget who fed them all these years. Subtle real Pulitzer stuff. Within hours, her high school friends were in the comments with prayer hands and wine emojis. Kayla joined in with a TikTok that said, POV, your sister evicts you because you asked her to pay rent for once in her life. She added a sad face and a trending audio clip for extra flavor. I got texts from extended relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Is everything okay with Lisa? She says you're being aggressive. She mentioned lawyers. What's going on? I didn't reply to those either. Instead, I sent my lawyer a folder, copy of the trust, deed transfer, eviction notice, screenshots of Lisa's Facebook post, and Kayla's TikTok. Then, I opened a new folder labeled proof and started saving everything. They were spiraling, and I was documenting it all. Days after the letter, Lisa called again. This time I picked up. So, you're really doing this? She said, skipping. Hello, I am. You'll regret it. This house was a gift to this family. It was a gift to me. Literally, check the deed. She sputtered something about moral rights and betrayal. Said she'd talk to my dad. I told her to go ahead. He'll be home soon. Just wait. Looking forward to it, I said, and hung up. Truth was, I'd already spoken to him. Dad called me the night after the eviction letter went out. He sounded tired. Not confused, not angry, just quiet. I figured it would come to this, he said. You knew? I didn't know they'd lock you out, but I knew they were pushing you too far. I've been hearing things. Turns out he'd been hearing things through the grapevine. Mutual friends, neighbors, people who saw the posts online and reached out to him concerned. He didn't want to believe it at first, but the more he heard, the clearer it became. They weren't just ungrateful. They were actively trying to push me out, and he let me know he stood by my side. He didn't say much else on the phone. Just send me the documents. I'll handle it. And I believed him. But Lisa didn't. She thought she could still bluff her way through this. A week before the eviction deadline, I got another text. We're not leaving. This isn't legal. I'm his wife. That house is half mine. That's when I sent the next official letter through my lawyer. Certified mail. It explained the trust. It clarified that the house was my father's separate property purchased before marriage and that he had full legal right to gift it to me. The documents were clean. The trust airtight. No loopholes. No mistakes. Just facts. I expected silence. Instead, they doubled down. Kayla made another TikTok. This time she was crying on camera, saying her evil sister was throwing them on the street. Lisa posted another dramatic Facebook status. Some people forget where they came from. We gave her everything. Now she wants us homeless. I screenshotted it, added it to the proof folder. That same day, I got a call from one of the neighbors, a sweet older woman who used to bake cookies when we were kids. They've been telling people you forged the deed, she said, concerned. That's fine. I'm not here to win Facebook. I'm here to reclaim my house. Then came the cherry on top. 3 days before the deadline, I went to my car after a long shift and saw a piece of paper taped to my windshield. A printed note sloppily typed. If you go through with this, we'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Don't test us. No signature, just cowardice and desperation. I smiled, took a photo, added it to the folder, because that's the thing about threats. When you've already lost your patience, your peace, and your tolerance, there's nothing left to threaten. Let them talk. Let them post. Let them scream. I had the deed. I had the law. And most importantly, I had enough. The deadline was almost here, and so was my dad. The eviction deadline came on a Thursday. I didn't sleep the night before, not because I was nervous, because I was ready. The kind of ready where your chest is tight and your thoughts are laser focused. I had the documents printed. I had the attorney on standby, and I had my patients buried somewhere deep beneath 6 years of silence. They hadn't packed. Of course they hadn't. The curtains were still drawn. Kayla's boyfriend's car was still in the driveway. Someone had left a pizza box on the porch like that was going to scare me off. At exactly 10 o'clock a.m. I arrived, not in scrubs, not straight from a shift. I took the day off, wore a button-down shirt, even combed my hair. If they were going to see me as the villain, I might as well look put together while doing it. I knocked once. Lisa answered, no makeup, arms crossed. She didn't look surprised to see me, just smug. We're not leaving. Then this will be the last time I ask nicely. You think you can bully your way into your father's house? I held up a copy of the deed. This isn't his house. It's mine. You have 30 minutes. She laughed. Actually laughed. You really think you can kick out your own family? Already did. The papers were filed weeks ago. You've ignored every deadline. Kayla came to the door next, as puffy like she hadn't slept, or maybe had just finished her third meltdown of the morning. This is illegal. You're throwing us into the street. No, I said you chose not to leave. I gave you every chance. She glanced behind her. We called Dad. He's on his way. Good. I hope he makes it before the sheriff does. And right on cue, a car pulled up to the curb. My dad stepped out, tan, slower than I remembered, but his presence still commanding. Military background never quite leaves a person, even when they're in a cardigan. He walked up the path and looked at me first. Not Lisa, not Kayla, me. Do you have a minute? We stepped aside just far enough that the others couldn't hear. I read everything, he said. Every document, every message you forwarded. I'm sorry it got to this. I should have come home sooner. It's handled mostly. He nodded, then handed me an envelope. What's this? Divorce papers. I filed them overseas. This is just the notarized confirmation. I stared at the envelope, then back at him. She never cared about this family, he said. She cared about control, about appearances, about bleeding you dry. I saw it too late, but I see it now. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Then he added, quieter, almost sheepish. I met someone overseas. She's kind, gentle. She reminds me of your mom in ways that make me feel like myself again. I blinked hard. I'm not replacing her, he added quickly, but I think I deserve happiness too. You do? We turned back toward the house. Lisa and Kayla were now on the porch, watching us like hawks, circling over their last defense. My father walked up first. Come even, I know everything. Lisa blinked. Everything? What? The lies, the posts, the threats, the way you treated my daughter. I have nothing left to say to you. Kayla opened her mouth, probably to unleash something dramatic, but he cut her off. This isn't your house. It never was. Pack your things now. Lisa grabbed his arm. You're just going to throw us away after all these years. He shook her off gently. You threw yourself away. Kayla turned to me desperate. You can't just, I can. And I did. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I just stood there while two people who once laughed at my exhaustion and called it weakness suddenly realized I wasn't tired anymore. I was done. They tried to stall, tried to protest, said they needed more time, that it was unfair, that I'd ruined everything. But in the end, they packed. Lisa went first, shoving things into garbage bags, muttering about lawyers and revenge. Kayla stormed around the house for hours, slamming cabinets and crying into phone calls that never seemed to go her way. By sunset, the house was quiet. By midnight, it was mine again. I walked from room to room barefoot, every light on, not because I needed to see, but because I could. Because for the first time in years, the space didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a home. No tension in the walls. No fake smiles at the dinner table. No guilt for existing. Just quiet. Just peace. I brewed coffee at 2:00 a.m. because no one could complain about the noise. I stood on the porch with a blanket around my shoulders and watched the street Lisa used to claim as her kingdom. It looked smaller now, less threatening, like something I'd finally outgrown. And when I turned around, I didn't see the ghosts of old arguments or half-swallowed rage. I saw possibility. Clean floors, empty walls, space to breathe. My house, my rules, my peace. It's been 6 months. Kayla moved in with her boyfriend's parents. That didn't last long. From what I hear, they kicked them both out after a few weeks. Something about bills, attitude, and staying up all night yelling at Xbox players through the headset. Lisa tried to sue. She lost. Then she tried to guilt trip my dad. That didn't work either. He's living overseas full-time now, happier, healthier, with someone who actually respects him. He told me last month he hasn't felt this peaceful in decades. As for me, I still work long shifts. But now when I come home, the key works. The fridge is mine. The quiet is mine. No one asks for money. No one slams doors. No one pretends I owe them for existing. Some nights I catch myself waiting for the next demand, like I'm still wired to expect it. But it never comes. They're gone and I'm free. But be honest, did I go too far? Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe.